Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ark building tutorial for the Aviary Tower with me, UniteTheClans. There are beginner builds, there are advanced builds, and then there are master level builds. That's what I would describe this as. Your mistakes will have a huge impact on the final product, but if you follow my directions, you will be able to recreate this in your world. If you do, I would love to see it. Share pictures with me on Twitter at UniteTheClans or join my Discord with the link in the description. You can head to the gallery section to share pictures of the finished build, or you can head to the building advice section and rely on the community if you are struggling. Today we are going to be building on the Ragnarok map at approximately 2070 on top of this epic mountain. It has a very flat top, which if you're building it somewhere else is something you want to look for. Build it somewhere equally as flat. This is a huge build, and it has a massive amount of materials required. Those are listed in the description to the most accurate of my abilities, and it is totally vanilla. You can even build this on official settings. No mods, no tricks, nothing. It is also a very vertical build, so having something like a Tapejara will come in handy. Let's build this together. Let's get started, guys, with a stone pillar. On top of that, 4 stone ceilings, and then you're going to want some stone fence foundations. Now, the center of these 4 is going to be the center of the build, and that first fence foundation needs to be centered in between 2 ceilings, like that. And then from there, you're going to be able to build around a pinwheel of 8. And these snap points should come easily, and then you're going to want a vertical metal pipe, and the goal here is to place it directly in the center. The pattern there should make it easy, but if you're struggling, use the K camera to make sure you got it fairly close to the center of this thing. Now, on one corner of these 4 ceilings is the pillar. From there, you're going to take 3 additional ceilings and build out. You want to continue with stone here. It's the easiest to work with. And then we are going to take more fence foundations. This first snap point can be difficult to find, the diagonal one. And then this one, make sure it's in line with the other fence foundations. And then here, instead of the inside, you want the outside of the 2 snap points, like so. And same thing here. There will be 2 right angle snap points to the middle there. That's the one you want. And now you're going to want another vertical metal pipe. And what we're doing here, guys, is bisecting the angle. We're giving ourselves a visual vertical way to line things up and place an additional pinwheel of 8 fence foundations inside the one we currently have. You can use your K camera once again to get that placement perfect. It doesn't matter if it's a little off. This next placement is the one that matters the most. So get down to eye level. You may want to build ceilings out under my feet in this direction so that this is easy for you. I have a tutorial on how to do this where I do not fly, so I will link you to that in the cards. And then once these pipes are lined up, you're going to raise your view so high that you see it's not snapped. And then if you move it, there you go, it snaps again. If you raise it a little bit higher, you will get to a point where it doesn't snap and it's free floating. And once that's the case, you're going to be able to move back and forth and line things up using the K camera. So I'm not perfectly centered here. So let's go ahead and get that hole directly in the middle of this pipe. And we'll check again. There is a decent margin for error because the pipe that's closer to you visually looks bigger, and so the small pipe can be hidden behind it a little off to the side, which is the case here. You can see we are not centered. I'm going to move my view slightly to the right. That looks centered, and we can check by moving all the way back, and that feels good. So the placement here is important. You may want to try this several times. It has to be out a little further than the 2 it is going between, and we're attempting to create a perfect circle. So we're going to test that here, guys. You're going to build with pillars and connect them to the ground. So 2 there, 2 there. And then from the newest one, I'm going to place 2 pillars and connect it to the ground. Now, these first 3 could be thatch ceilings. I'm using stone for simplicity throughout the build. But the next 3, those need to be stone. This is how you can check how accurate your placement was. You're going to want to have these smooth corners. Mine are not perfect, but they are pretty darn good. If yours do not look, very good, take it down, remove the fence foundation you just placed, and try lining it up again. All of this stuff can come out, and actually everything that we built at the back, if you like your placement, can come out. So we can remove all of this, including the fence foundations. Now, the goal is to create a second pinwheel. So using the newest one, we will now find a snap point between the existing fence foundations. Between each pair, there will be a new location. And once you are done, you will have a 16-sided pinwheel. And that is why the placement of that first free-floating fence foundation is so important for this to be lined up accurately. Now, the next step is pillars. You are going to want to do one on the end of each of these 16 fence foundations. So from the inside, you can do 15 of them. Don't do the last one. You'll be trapped in here. And then once you get out to the outside, the goal will become to connect to them to the ground. So we'll place this last one here, and then we'll go around the circle, connecting them to the ground. Now, this can be difficult, but it's super important. You can test whether you have properly intersected the ground by building ceilings off the top, but you need support on each of those. And once you are done, it should look something like this, and pretty fantastic. The next stage involves more pillars and stone foundations. Now, there are two snap points here, guys. There's one close to the pillar and one further. You want one that is a full snap point out, and we're going to be alternating. Skip a pillar, and then build on the next one. Skip a pillar and build on the next one. Always using the outer of the snap points. And we are going to use these to create snap points for stone foundations. So you should have 8 if you skipped every other one. And by the end, it will look like this. Now, foundations. You will have a spot there and a new spot further out. The further out one is for the buttresses, and the one on the inside is snapping to a set of the pillars on the inside. So you should have a shape that looks like this. Now, the 8 stone pillars we place there are not permanent. They can be removed. You could have done wood for these, but I'm going to do stone throughout the build, so don't complain too much about wasted materials. I will let you know when there's an opportunity to save. These totally could have been wood. So we're going to remove these, and then in the space they occupy, we're going to place stone ceilings and fill the gaps that currently exist. If you have the no-clip method, you could do a foundation here, but if you don't, you're going to need to do ceilings. And we'll build around with 8 of those all the way around the circle, filling the gaps, and I will show you what it looks like now. Much smoother, right? The next phase involves thatch. We're going to do door frames 4 high in line with the buttresses, and you're actually snapping to the ceilings we just placed. So you want to make sure the outer texture is facing you and the inner bamboo backing is facing the inside, and do that 8 times in line with the buttresses. It will look like this when you are done. And now we are going to build one of the buttresses. So this is an opportunity to increase the size of the build. You can go taller here, guys. So build up with stone walls. The only thing that's important is whatever height you do, your sloped wall needs to be above the last of the thatched door frames. And on the front, we're going to do a door frame, a wall, a window, and another wall. And you're going to go ahead and repeat this 8 times around the outside of the build. After that, we're going to add stone ceilings, sloped roofs to the top of this. You could do wood. And with that done, you can now go and add a 5th thatch door frame. The reason we didn't do this earlier is it creates a snap point for those sloped roofs. Now, on top of that, you can go ahead and build up another opportunity to increase the height. I'm doing another 5 stone walls, and I'm doing it around the entire process. So I am now 10 high in those spaces, and what we're going to do is show you exactly that. We're going to fill the spaces in between with more stone walls. So there will be 80 total for this. This is a massive build. So 5, and then 5 more above the thatch, like so. And we'll do this all around the circle until it looks like this. Our main floor is coming together. We're going to eventually remove that thatch, but for now, we're going to take a look at some preparations. So we are going to leave the pillars that are in line with the thatch. The ones that are in line with the foundations can be removed. So if it's in line with a ceiling, leave it. If it's in line with a foundation, remove it until you have only 8 pillars in the center, looking like this. It's very important that the ones you leave are the ones in line with the thatch. They will be providing the support we need to remove that thatch later. So, assuming that these have all been connected to the ground, you are going to be able to remove everything in the middle. Now, this is a step you cannot go back from, so keep that in mind, guys. This is permanent. You won't get these snap points back. You will be screwed. So go ahead and remove everything if you're feeling confident. If the pillars are the right ones, the ones in line with the thatch, you can go ahead and remove everything, including the pillar and the metal pipe here in the middle. And now we're going to use stone ceilings to fill some of this space in the middle of our build where there's currently grass. A beautiful thing about this design, guys, is even on official settings, you can overlap these ceilings. I am playing definitely without the ability to clip. You see the obstruction error there. So we should be able to build around like this and create in the center what is almost a absolutely perfect circle, and on the outside looks more like a hexadecagon, a 16-sided shape. And we'll fill all 16 of these slots. We're going to leave the middle for now. We'll come back to that. But if you zoom out, you can see the near perfect circle and this round main base of the tower. Now, from the outside, guys, we'll do some finishing touches. A wooden door, a wooden ramp, and a wooden window. And you're going to do this 8 times around the build until all of these have been closed off. And I believe that is the last one. It is. So this is how the build is looking now, guys. In the next stage, we need to remove the thatch that is behind those buttresses and really open up the main floor. So let's go ahead and take a look on the inside, and I will show you what is coming for us. We're going to be using these pillars, extending them up and building ceilings above the thatch and then at the very top of this. So we'll be building 2 floors in this space, 2 additional floors, so 3 total in this base tower. Alright guys, so at this stage of the build, we are ready to remove the thatch. We are ready to add a second story, and that is going to provide the support we need. So if you take the pillars, which are obviously in line with the thatch at this point, and add 4 on top of each. We're going to be building 1 higher than the thatch, and we're going to be putting a row of ceilings in between the first 2 stone walls above the thatch, here and here. And the second one will come out on top of your pillar. You're also going to be building in the space in between and maintaining that 16-sided shape. We'll have another perfect circle in the middle, and that ceiling tie into a pillar, and they provide the support for the walls above the buttresses, and they're going to allow us to remove the thatch. Your second floor is going to look like this. We'll work on a third here in a minute, but let's head back to the main floor and we will remove the thatch. This is a moment of truth. People always ask how I do this one-click delete. I'm using something called Ark Commander. For you, it's going to be a little bit more jumping or climbing, but assuming nothing comes crumbling down other than thatch, you have done everything right up to this point. Congratulations. It was difficult to get here. This is not a beginner tutorial. So let's get all of the thatch removed, and you will see the potential for this main floor now. It is a lot more spacious. Half the pillars removed, all the thatch removed, and we got a lot of space down here. Now, eventually, we will be adding in hatch frames, and we'll be using this middle section for a ladder and the ability to climb in between. But as you can tell now, there are 16 possible snap points for it. We're going to wait until we know exactly how we want it positioned. So for this next stage, guys, we're going to be building ceilings in between the top 2 walls. So 1 down from the top, and you'll build around with 16. Now this part is fairly important too. You're going to look at the positioning of your pillars, and we're actually going to place walls, and you can alternately do door frames here in the space in between the pillars. So I'll show you a quick and easy way to check that here. We'll go here and here, and you won't be able to build in the space in between, so you'll want to get these right. So if we go down to this level and you look, okay, there are our pillars. There should be a snap point between them right there on a ceiling. If we build up, you want that to be in line with the walls or the stone door frames. Now I'm going to throw in walls here. Eventually I replace them with door frames, but it's if you plan on using this upper level for something, door frames might be a little bit more versatile. Maybe you do windows around the outside, and this is a viewing gallery. Up to you how you use this space. Now, we're going to be doing stone ceilings here, guys, and we're not going to be placing them like we did on the previous floors, not initially, at least. We're actually going to be using these stone door frames in order to find new snap points that sit halfway on top, and we're going to be creating an octagon out of this hexadecagon. So, if we do this, we will now have in the middle a perfect octagon shape. Now, it's 1 wall wide, which we will be taking advantage of later, but it's going to be centered in between 2 walls, as you can see. like that. Now, from here, we're going to be deciding the positioning of our Dino Gates. There will be 4 based on these ceilings we just placed. You decide which of the 4 sides. They're obviously going to be alternating. You can't have 2 Dino Gates side by side, so pick which direction you want the Dino Gates to face. It can be any of these 8 sides, or it can be either of 2 options. You're going to have to skip a side, and then as you place these, you're going to want the outer of the 2 snap points. There will be a couple here as you go around on these ceilings. There will be many, to be honest, but not that one and that one. We will say not that one, but that one. Perfect. And we're going to go do this, obviously, 4 times, and these will each have Dino Gates on them. And this level will be used for storage for flyers. Now, around the outside, we're going to go ahead and take wooden ceilings, 16 of them, and we're going to fill the space. Now, it's up to you. You could definitely do this with more stone. I like the look of the wood. It looks good once the walls and the gates are in place. And these are essential. These are actually going to provide us with the snap points we need to create that circle shape in the middle again. So after you've done this, you're going to go back to your stone ceilings, and we're going to fill in the middle with 16 more stone ceilings, snapping all the way around until we have closed the gap. You're going to miss spots. Ideally, you try and catch them all, like I almost missed a spot there. I think I missed one at the end here, but it doesn't really matter too much. There we go. Perfect. So you've got that 16-sided shape and a perfect hole in the middle that will now be directly in line with the holes above and below, and that will eventually get the hatch frame. So we're about ready to move on to the Dino Gates. Before we do, we have to put up the walls that are going to go in between them. So stone walls, and you're going to build 4 high and 2 wide in between where you did the fence foundations. So on the sides that did not get the fence foundations, you're going to go ahead and place walls, and snap points become complicated at this stage in the build, guys. So be patient, rotate your snap points, change the angle at which you are looking at things, and you should be able to find all of these, but I promise you it's not easy. See? There we go. Perfect. So we'll build each of these to a total height of 4, because that is the exact height of a Dino Gate, which is what we'll be moving on to here next. So you will have, depending on how you place those foundations, this could be facing one of 2 ways. You want this option. You want the lighter kind of bluish tint facing you, and you want those pointy bits of the frame facing out. And the way to test that is to put a gate in and make sure it opens to the inside. Once you have done that, grab a spray painter, all 6 regions, with slate paint, and this is about the only thing on the build that gets paint. Makes it match the stone really well and gives it a really cool look for sort of an aviary, which is what this floor is for. I put Argy's here in the final version of the build, and just make sure all your doors open inward. If not, then you're going to want to flip the gateway in order to get the gates to open the other way. That is how we look. All the perfect, see the 3 holes at each level perfectly in line with each other? We have an octagon, but we have maintained the hexadecagon shape as evidenced by those 3 perfect circles down the middle. Now this is the last level that we'll have those. After this, we're going to be creating a different sort of shape on top of here. A different shape indeed, guys. It's going to get really interesting. So I'm going to edit less for this chunk of the video, just so you can see what I'm doing. Next stage involves stone ceilings. You'll put 1 off each of these walls and snap a wall below it. So this is going to form a V shape in front of each of your gates, and we're going to do this all the way around the circle. It gets easier once you've done it 2 or 3 times. You figure out a good method for doing so, and I'll show you that little V shape that we have created. If you hang down and look, it hangs there in between the entrance, and that is crucial because it's going to provide a new snap point, just like we did on the floor below. And this is going to allow us to create a 3x3 in which we can put a hatch frame at the center. The hatch frame will wait, guys. We have more important, more complicated things to do before we get there. The next stage involves fence foundations, and a lot of them, as well as stone walls to check your progress as you go. We're going to be placing fence foundations on the inside of this circle, so not that snap point, but that one. And trick, face the same way every time you do this. Don't turn and look at this from the other side. Keep standing here and looking forward, and you will keep these facing the same direction. So once you've got the first one, you'll snap one out towards the gate. It'll be in the center of the gate, and then you're going to snap one off to the left of that, like so. And check this immediately to make sure that the wall is facing out. You don't want to see that bright green color. You want to see the lighter kind of bluish color. And then we're going to go on a 45-degree angle from there, and we're going to place a single fence foundation directly over the walls in between the gates, and check every single time you place one of these to make sure the walls are facing outwards. So you'll do 4 each time. So a single fence foundation here on the inner snap point, 45 degrees out towards the gate, 90 degrees across the top of the gate, and then 45 degrees across the top of the wall. And anything that is on the outside, you're going to be checking to make sure the walls face the direction you want them to. And you notice I am always facing the same direction as I do these. I do those 4. Now I go back to the middle, inner snap point. So you'll see the 2 here. That's the one you want. Otherwise, it's going to throw things off big time. Then 45 degrees that way. Then 90 across the top of the gate. And if you don't see any snap points coming up that are attached to the tip of your fence foundation, adjust your view and then cycle snap points. So there are 2 snap points here, guys. You want the outer one when you do the 90 degrees. And then on this 45 degree, basically what we're creating, guys, is a sort of asymmetrical octagon on top. And check every single time for walls. So now we have spaces in between that we didn't finish. We're going to go ahead and finish those up now, carrying on from the last fence foundation placed in each sequence on a 45-degree angle. That should be perfectly in line with the one next to it. And we will have created a very cool shape when we're done here, guys. I will show you. You're going to want to rewind and watch this chunk of the video a few times. And there's a reason it's completely unedited, and I show you the same process 4 times. And that I check every single wall to be facing the right direction, because if you make a mistake here, it's going to have big consequences in the next tiers of the build. And if you're not a pro builder, you might just consider ending the build here and going, this is a nice looking tower. Let's stop here. So this is the last of the fence foundations. You can see I'm snapping to the one that is over the walls, but we are perfectly in line. We should be perfectly in line with the one that we already placed over top of the gate at the very beginning. So let's get this one in place. There. That is it, guys. And check once again that the walls are facing the right way, and that is your new shape. So an octagon with 4 sides being 2 walls across and 4 sides being 1 wall across. I told you, you can stop building here if this is too complex and call it a day. Now, this is the point to add in your hatch frame. There will be several different snap points. It doesn't matter too much. What I like to do here is go ahead and place my trap door, open it, and then place the ladder across from that, so it's not sideways. And there's 2 ladder snap points. Choose the one closest to the center and crouch and snap below, and then you're going to have to crouch to get this queue, if not build a ladder above. And now we're going to build as we climb down. So step by step, a little bit lower, and another ladder, and do this all the way until you reach the very bottom. And one more should do the trick. And we are at the bottom. All right, guys, so now we're going to place a ceiling and fill that little grass hole. That is the positioning. Now, as we go up, we are going to be placing hatch frames. So you can go ahead and get the hatch frame ready. And as you climb, there should only be 1 snap point because you're locked to this ladder. And it should be the one that's perfectly in line with what you're doing. And you'll do this on each of the 2 floors. Then you're going to go back, grab trapdoors, and place that first on the 2nd floor. Then we'll climb up and place it on the 3rd floor, and we will go to the 4th floor, which is where we have built our crazy fence foundation pattern above the first aviary. See, if you build a ladder here, it makes it much easier to get on, and make sure that you can climb up and down. Otherwise, you're going to want to reposition these things, and you might have a hatch frame out of position. So we'll test this. We'll look it up from below, and you'll see that you can now traverse through all the floors really easily. Now, we have checked every single one of these to make sure that the walls are going to face out. This is really important. So on the single sides, guys, we're going to build 2 walls, then a window frame, then a door frame, then a wall, then a window frame, then a door frame, and then another wall. It's up to you how you pattern these. You don't have to add windows at all, but this is going to be one of the biggest interior spaces. So I would do this on all 4 corners, and I would include at least some windows in this design. So those are placed on the single wide foundations. And now we're going to go to the double wide, the ones that are on top of the gates, and we are going to place whatchamacallit, we're going to place stone walls, and there's going to be 16 in each section, so 64 total, not counting the ones that we used along with the windows and the door frames for this chunk of the build. This is a super resource-intensive build, guys. You want to make sure you get this stuff right as you go, and that is why we checked every single one of these to make sure it faces the right way. You will now have this shape, guys. Still an octagon, but a variation on an octagon. 4 single wall sides, 4 double wall sides, and overall we've now created 3 tiers with different shapes. A circle, aka hexadecagon, an octagon, and a different octagon on top. And if you thought the build was complex, guys, this is where we take it to a whole nother level. So once again, you have your opportunity to stop building and go, this is a nice tower. For this stage, you are going to need stone ceilings. You'll place 1 off each of the top walls, and then you're going to place 1 in between. And that's actually going to be a little perch, because we are creating a story for another aviary. This is where we will eventually store Tapejaras. And the next stage involves a thatch ceiling out there, which allows you to snap a wooden ramp on that angle. We're going to do this on all 4 of these. And when you are done, you will have that. The snap point for the ramp is a little tricky, but that thatch ceiling gives you the one you need. Alright, and here is where it gets interesting, guys. We are going to take fence foundations. Now, instead of the outer snap point, that one, we want the inner one. And once again, I will try to face the same direction every time I place these. That should result in my gates facing the same way. And you're going to place it across each of these 2 wide sections, right on top of the 2 wide walls. And I'm going to keep you with me and show you every single one of these, because this is where people will get tripped up. There is a link in the description for the Geeks Discord. There's a section called Building Advice. If you're stumped, it's going to be tough to help you, but come there. Rely on an entire community of builders I have brought together for advice on this complex build. Now, here is where we take it to another level. So we're going to fill in these corner pieces, 4 of them, with angled stone ceilings. And then we're going to do some more trickery with fence foundations. Now, the placement of these is going to be very, very important. It's the most important step of the build. So you are going to take a right angle and the inner one, that one there. And you're going to do that. I put my back to the outside and I face the inside every time I do this, and they're going to crisscross in the middle. And that is going to actually allow us, even on official settings, to overlap walls. Now, as you do this, it's important to make sure that the walls face out yet again, which is why you want to stand in the same position every time you do it. So, inside snap point, and then put your back to the outside, and then once again, see, it can be tricky. Inside snap point, and you'll grab your walls and just check to make sure that the outside is facing out, not that one, but this one, right? And they should cross over by the same amount. So if the crossover of the 2 fence foundations isn't looking even, then you know you may have misplaced one. So it's this inner snap point. It's actually inside the tip, and you get that perfectly even crossover. And this is actually going to allow us to crisscross walls. Now, there will be multiple snap points on each of those fence foundations, and that's kind of important. This is not key, guys, but if you want to test and make sure that this will work for you, you can do that. So these are official settings. Definitely don't have no clip enabled, yet we are able to do this, and this allows us to take the next tier of the tower to a whole new level. These snap points here, the one that we have for the ledge, that little balcony, is the one that we're going to be using, and that should create a shape here in the middle that is the same size as the hatch for a hatch frame. However, we don't have the snap point to actually put in a hatch frame. So what we're going to do is look down below, figure out where our ladder was on the last one, and choose a side close to that. Choose the ladder snap point closest to the edge, and we'll actually build up one higher. This ladder will eventually go up to the top, and we will take it down. Once again, we will do the technique of build as we descend, and we'll take this all the way down to this large inner story. This is one of the big interior spaces, and I think these ladders will crisscross here in a moment. Now, as you hop off this, just step a little bit to the side, and you should be fine, because we're on a weird angle. Ready? Yes. Okay. Perfect. And we can take out that ladder right there that we left in place from last time, and close the hatch, and we should now be able to use this ladder to climb up. Now, this is an important test, guys. You shouldn't have any issues based on how we did these ceilings. You will slow down a little bit as you squeeze through this hole, but you will get through it. Now, this is a very different way to do ladders. If it gives you trouble, I don't know what to tell you. But we're going to be leaving these 4 little kind of diamond-shaped holes. They'll provide some light down below. And now is where we get into the complex stuff, guys. So, as I mentioned, we're going to be able to place crisscrossing walls. We're also going to be able to place pillars in a way where they're technically clipping together. So this will cause you some issues, but it's usually just in the order of the pillar placed. So we're going to go do this on all 4 corners, so 2 pillars on each, and then we're going to take these up to another, to the next height. So the next level is going to have Dino Gates. So eventually we are going to need these to be 4 high. So add 3 to the top of each of these, like so, and like I said, it's going to get only more complex from here. I don't know how I stumbled onto this build. And I'll keep you with me, just because I want to show you this is possible. You may get that. It's not a death sentence. Try taking out that one and do it in the opposite order, and then do it that order all the way up. So I think we have the same issue on this next section here. So if I go here, I can't go there. So we'll remove that, and then we'll do this. And we'll build the left, then the left, then the right, until we're 4 high on all of these. And now we can get into the Dino Gates, which we will do before we do the walls. So I actually need to flip mine. You may not need to, but you want them to be facing that way, with the kind of pointy edges facing you. Not pointy, I don't know how to describe these things. But again, we're going to want the gates to open inward. And once again, we're going to paint all 6 regions in slate gray paint, and that's going to make them blend right in with the stone. Give it a test and open it up, and you want them all to open in, which they will if your gates are facing this direction, and that's determined by the fence foundations below. So here is where it gets complex, guys. See those 2 snap points? You're going to alternate. So on the right, you are going to choose the snap point that's further out and actually comes out through the side of the gate. On the left, you're going to choose the one that's nestled inside the gate. And you're going to do this every single time around the outside. Because of this, I'm going to keep you with me. On top of these, we're going to snap ceilings. Now, first, we're going to add another pillar to the top of each of these, making them 5 high, and a ceiling here. And there might be a couple snap points, but it should be easy at first. And then if you have done everything right, you're going to be able to add pillars to the middle of each of those. Now, if you cannot do that, you haven't placed the walls right, go back to the bottom and play around with that. So we're going to repeat this process over and over again, guys, and it's important to show you exactly how this is going to work. I'll do this again with you. On the left, you want the wall nestled on the inside. On the right, you want it to stick through the side of the gate frame, so rotate your snap points till you find that. If you can't find it, place more fence foundations down there. And you will know if you're doing this right by the test at the top when we do these pillars. So add a pillar to the top of each of these, then a ceiling. The one on the left is going to be easy. The one on the right is going to be a little more complicated because there will be 2 snap points. You want the one that is going to be perfectly flush with your wall, and then attempt to place your pillars. If that doesn't work, you got to go back to the bottom of these walls. All right, guys, so we know the drill now. That one sticks through, this one is nestled in, and we build all the way up. I have never had an issue with these walls clipping, but if they do, try doing the left then the right, or the right then the left, whatever isn't working for you. Top it with one of each pillar. Then, this point, the ceiling placement is really important, guys. By the end, you're going to have 2 snap points on either side. This one, which is snapping to the wall, and that one, which is snapping to the ceiling. You need to be snapping to the wall. So once you have placed that ceiling, you're going to check and see this smooth, flush edge. And then on top of that, we're going to slap our pillars. Now, I hope this works for everybody the way it worked for me. If it doesn't, you've got to play with the placement of those walls below and maybe even add fence foundations. Now, we're going to add ceilings to the middle of this, guys, and we're going to create the same sized hole we did on the last one. Now, the only way to make that work is by placing walls below here. Now, it's important that you always do the same. So if you place it on the right, do the right every single time. Otherwise, you'll be creating multiple snap points, and only do one for now. So once that's done, you're going to be able to place a ceiling kitty corner floating right across the middle, and we're going to be able to do this on all 4 spots. Right here, and right here. Now we are going to test this by extending our ladder upwards and trying to climb through the gap. Perfect. All right, so this is a cool technique. I'm very happy with the way it turned out, but I want to make sure it works for you guys the way it works for me. So let's build up. And let's try climbing, and we're going to add one ladder to the very top so we know that we can climb through the hole, because this is not the top of our tower. Once again, it slows you down, but it doesn't stop you from going through. So now that that's done, we can actually go ahead and place a second wall beside each of those. Now, this is important. This is why you only placed one wall first, so you only had one snap point for those 4 ceilings that form the small hole in the middle, and you can finish the job by coming in here and placing each of these 4 extra walls, closing those gaps. Now, we need to add gates to each of these if we haven't yet, and we're going to paint them all the same way, and then we're going to test, make sure they all open, and I'll show you one of the cool parts of this design, guys. So all 6 regions get slate gray paint, and we open in, and we'll do this on each of these gates. And I want to show you, it's kind of cool the way that we have built this. The gate actually nestles perfectly in there with the pillar and forms a really clean edge. I really like it a lot. So this aviary is going to be used for Tapejaras. If we stand out here, we can now see what we have created, the craziness that is on top of us. Alright guys, from up here we're going to extend these pillars. Now I'm going to do some of these with you on camera because you could run into the same issue as before. I found the key is to go left to right, and I find it's best to build it up one row at a time. You're going to add 3 on top of each, bring them to a total of 4 high. You will have some snap point issues, but if you pay attention, things will work well. There you go. So left to right seem to work well. These inside ones will have a odd snap point. You want to make sure you're lined up with the pillar below and not that offset one. And then instead of building up like this, like I'm doing, you may want to just do one row at a time because you could run into issues like this. And once again, it's not a death sentence. You just need to remove the one beside it and try again and then get the sequence right. So that one should go in first and then these ones. At this point, you've got them all 4 high. Now, there are 2 different elevations here, guys. We're going to be using the inner pillars to snap ceilings. Now, the outer pillars have a slightly higher snap point. We'll be using that later. But for now, we're going to go ahead and put in these 8 ceilings. Next, we have to engineer a ladder from below. So we're going to go down 1 story. We're going to build up, and I think I'll build up 1 higher than I need to so that I can actually land safely on the level above. I didn't plan this out. And there we go. Perfect. Hop, skip, and a jump. All right, now we just need to get ceilings like below that will fit in and around here. We already have the snap points we need. It's directly in between here. We've got 2 kind of intersecting 3x3s here. And that is kind of the one you need right there. And you shouldn't have too many various options. It should be pretty straightforward. And now you test it. Get on your ladder, try climbing through the thing a couple of times, and make sure that you can actually fit through. And then you can remove this top ladder because this is the top of the place, guys. We're ready to add the crown on top of this tower and finish it off. So from here, we're going to use the other pillars now. You notice they have a higher snap point, and we're going to go ahead and put 1 ceiling on each of them. That's a total of 8. Now we're going to add fence foundations, wooden ones, and you're going to want the outer snap point, and you're going to do this on all of the 8 ceilings you just placed. And there we go. So we are going to use these to anchor pillars and to add sort of a menacing top bit to this. So go ahead and put 1 on each corner. These will eventually be 3 high, so you could add 2 to the top of them. And I'll give you 2 options for how to finish this, guys. You could go ahead and put a pillar directly in the middle here. That is one of 2 ways you can do this. Now, that would be too high in the final version, so if you like that, you can add another pillar on top. The other option, instead of doing this and placing it like that, we could go ahead and place them offset like this. So let's alternate them, and we'll try doing both on this design, but you could pick one or the other. So we'll go in the middle, and then we'll go next to each of the pillars. So those are the potential designs. The corner ones need to be 3 high. These inner ones need to be 2 high. And there we go. 3 high and 2 high on the inner ones. Pretty easy. All right, from here, guys, we're going to add some detail with walls. Now, you're going to have a billion snap points. The one you want is inside of the pillars. It's not on the same ceiling that the fence foundations went on. It's just inside, and you're actually going to have a gap in the middle that we are going to leave open. If you chose the middle pillar, it is going to be kind of blocked by that pillar. If you didn't, you're going to be able to see through it. And we're actually going to add a door frame at a next step. So like I said, the stat points here are complicated. These are the ones you want in from the pillars, like so. All right, and this is how things are looking, guys. Now we are going to do more crisscross walls. Right angle from that, right angle from that. And if you zoom out, you're going to be able to do that on all four corners. With that done, we now need to fill the center gap. We could do a door frame. Now, as I mentioned, if you chose the middle pillar, it's going to block the view. If you chose to do those two pillars in the middle, you are going to have space in between. But this is how it looks from above, and that is with the door frames in there. On the next level, we're going to build up with walls everywhere, except we're going to do a window frame on top of the doors. The window frame, to me, seems like the best bet. And once again, you could have a blocked view through there, or you could have a clear, wide open view like this. All right, and it's up to you guys. At this point, you could still make changes, remove the middle pillar and add the two offset ones, or remove the two offset ones and add the middle pillar, depending on which of these two variations you like better. You will not be able to fit through that gap, so don't worry about it, but you do have the option to adjust things still. Okay, so for this point, we're going to be adding a bunch of stone railings, and we're actually going to do a trick that's going to allow us to crisscross stone railings like we have with the walls. They will not do it on their own, but if we go ahead and grab thatch using the same door frames we used earlier and these stone railings, we can trick them. So if we go here and here, like we did with the walls below, you can now replace each of those with a stone railing. However, if you just try and do it like this, it ain't gonna work. So there's so many various tips and tricks in this video, guys, it's overwhelming. I don't even know how I ended up coming out with it. Like I said, I don't know how I did this. But once you've done the four corners, crisscross, they should look like that. Now we're gonna add railings on top of every single wall. So there are the 4 window frames, and then on the outside, there are gonna be 8 walls, like so. And we'll do this on all 4 sides. And done. That is pretty much it, guys. I think we have completed the build. All right, guys, let's take this ladder down to the floor below. And I want to talk about this floor. If you have some ingenuity, if you have some mods at your disposal, you could actually turn this into a lighthouse as well as an aviary. This area is wide open, and if you had some bright lights, maybe artifacts, up to you, on this floor, it would function as a lighthouse. Now, the floor below this is the upper aviary. What is the point of an aviary if it doesn't have flyers, guys? We're going to need to add some flyers to each of our 2 aviary floors. And there we go, Argy's first floor, and Tapejara's on the second. Let's do an interior tour. This is your epic main floor, 8 pillars in a circle around the middle. You've got the buttresses and a ladder that takes you up through a cool-looking ceiling to a second story. We'll close this gate behind us, and I'll show you the second story, guys. So this is the one that I might use for storage. You do have those upper areas up there. If you add a ladder to those, you could make that a little viewing gallery. And now we head up to the 3rd floor, which is actually, ready? The first of 2 aviaries. Now, if you're willing to keep the doors open, you can fit 4 Argys up here. If you want to keep them closed, you certainly don't want to try and cram 4 of them in here, but you should be able to fit a couple. And now we head up the last of the hatch frame ladders to the octagon-shaped space, and this is where I would put your main base, crafting, etc. You've got the most space of anywhere in the tower, pretty useful, and lots of natural light depending on how you designed the walls here. Now, if we take the ladder up, we will get to aviary number 2, and one I have decided to use for the legendary Tapejara, which I recommend having if you are going to attempt this build. All of mine are in black, and once again, if you're willing to keep the doors open, we are in Wyvern country, I suppose, but you can fit 4 of them up here. They look like gargoyles. Truly fantastic. I love it. And we're going to head up one more time to the lighthouse floor I blabbed about before, and it's really up to you what you use this for. It could just be a viewing area. You could see ships coming in from sea, you could see enemies from far away, and it's really cool with this pillar design. Now, that's why we went to so much trouble to get these 4 pillars, because you've got what looks like a wall built entirely from pillars. And up we go to the tippy tip top, guys, and this is the crown. This is the very top. You could also land a flyer up here if you wanted to, and we've got a crazy cool design. Down on the main floor it is, and we will look at this thing from below with the flyers on their perches. I love this tower, guys.
This knife has a straight edge on it, so it's very easy. And maybe in our world here, there lives a happy little mountain.
Thank you so much for checking out the building tutorial for the Aviary Tower, geeks. I'm UTC. Click on my ginger face to subscribe. Use the links in the description to come say hi on Twitter and join the Discord. And instead of watching whatever YouTube wants you to watch next, click here to dive into my building tutorial playlist.